Hi, I'm Dan Skinner, Director of Audio Reader, and I'm very happy to be speaking with you virtually today for a different type of event for us. We're celebrating another year of programming, volunteering, and service for blind, visually impaired, and print-disabled individuals across our service area. And what a year it's been! We have a lot to celebrate this year, not the least of which is Audio Reader's continued service to our patrons during a pandemic. Our daily operations have been running remotely for 7 months now. Volunteers have uploaded more than 5,000 audio files, recorded from basements, closets, bedrooms, and home offices all across the country. Through our combined efforts, we've been able to keep individuals with vision and print disabilities connected with their communities and to the news and information they so desperately need, especially during this strange and difficult time. Well, today, we're gathering in this virtual space from Hawaii to New York City to celebrate our amazing volunteers. We miss seeing you in person at the studios, and at what in normal times would be our annual volunteer brunch. But we're doing this in the safest way possible for all of us. And I hope that all of you watching and your families are healthy and well. We've noticed through this pandemic that as these new challenges arise, they often bring with them opportunities. And we're excited to be able to reach more friends and supporters today because of the wonders of the internet. So if you're tuning in today to celebrate a family member, a friend, or a colleague who generously shares their time and talents with Audio Reader, be sure to comment on the Facebook Live video and share your own thanks and well wishes. We think our volunteers are worth celebrating, and we invite you to join us in doing so today from wherever you are around the world. As for my part with you today, I want to say thank you to each and every Audio Reader volunteer. Thank you for creating a home studio. Thank you for continuing your telephone reader service. Thank you for waiting patiently until it's safe for the studios to reopen so you can read for Audio Reader again. So in whatever way you're supporting us right now, we can't be more thankful for everything you do to bring information to the blind and print-disabled individuals in Kansas, Missouri, and across the United States. As I mentioned, this is, of course, a virtual event, so a lot of what you're going to see in today's program was conducted over Zoom. Zoom is just one of the many tools we've been using to transition to a new way of operating during this pandemic, to operate in a way that keeps our staff and volunteers safe. But the story of how that transition unfolded is worth sharing. So please enjoy this recollection from some Audio Reader staff as they recall a year of Audio Reader that's been like no other.
The day that we left the office, Nick asked me, well, wait for me. I don't want to leave by myself because it was emotional. And I had my plant with me that looked much healthier when it left Audio Reader. It has not enjoyed living at home. It was much happier and better taken care of in my office.
I actually just thought it would be for maybe a week, couple weeks at most. It would just be a brief hiatus and then we'd be back in the office.
I thought that this would be maybe just a really long spring break and then we'd be back.
I was definitely convinced that it was only like short term. It was, the KU bureaucracy was making us do this. And I just thought, well, this is going to be a short term shutdown while we figure out some new protocols and we'll all be back.
So that period in March was pretty crazy. I don't think I'll ever forget that. 3 weeks felt like 6 weeks crammed into 3 as we tried to figure out what was happening, paying attention to the governor as the state advised us on safety as well as KU. So I think I sent more important emails in close succession than I've ever sent to the most number of people in that 10-day or 2-week period where we shut down.
Yeah, I grabbed my plant kind of at the last minute in my favorite mug, thinking we weren't going to be gone that long, but surely longer than my plant could survive.
I did bring my plants home after a couple of weeks, so they didn't die, and they are still alive here.
One of the funniest moments when I did go back in to pick some things up was that my St. Patrick's Day decorations are still hanging up in my office, so that was kind of funny.
Yeah, we were looking forward to exciting things, and the pandemic changed all that we were planning for and looking forward to. So the plant's still alive. I'm still alive. Audio Reader's still on the air and doing a great job, but it looks a lot different than I anticipated it would back in March.
Little did we know that we would still be sitting in our home offices here in October, but still continuing to do our jobs on a daily basis.
We moved home. I got my little setup in the mudroom where my office is, with a lot of backpacks and hats and mud and jackets that you can't see when I'm on Zoom. So that's awesome.
It took me a while to actually set up a home, to set up a home setup, because I kept thinking, oh, well, we're going to go back any day now. So, I just have a laptop and a dining room table. So it's been pretty low key for what we need to do for development.
Moving my part of Audio Reader home to my garage was definitely a bit of a panic, a bit of a free-for-all, grabbing computers and monitors and microphones, and luckily we do have a lot of technology and I was able to use my garage. Now March I had heater at my feet that rattles and makes horrible noise, and so that was keeping me warm. Since then I've been hot and having fans blowing on me in the heat of August, and now we're slowly getting back to, I have not plugged in the heater, but it's imminent.
I do share an office. It belonged to the cat, but Alice didn't really like me coming into her space for an extended period of time, although now she really likes it. She's right now behind my monitor asleep, but she'll get up pretty soon and wander on through, flick her tail. So yeah, I have my coworker Alice and the toys.
I can't hide much on my Zoom calls. It's all here behind me. In fact, what I most want to hide is what's directly behind my back right there, which is the pile of shoes, which you're not going to see.
I have two young coworkers that hang out during the day with me. Sometimes they will pop in on a meeting. They are 8 and 5, so they don't always know the customary procedures of Zoom. So they like to wave hi and interrupt often.
There's 2 little kids behind that door. You can occasionally hear them screaming.
But that's our new normal, and we enjoy it, and it's always a new and interesting thing each day.
My other favorite thing has been all of the human moments on Zoom where you have kids popping up in the background, or you have a cat walking across the computer, or dogs barking, or whatever it might be. Just those are my favorite moments of every Zoom call.
Yeah, nothing like a screaming toddler that everybody knows, oh, the call is over now.
And here's Champ coming in and making his toenail clicking.
Oh, there you go. I am in the mudroom. There's a door. I remember learning that if I stopped my video, that didn't automatically mute me. So I stopped my video to scold someone that's shorter and younger than me, and y'all could hear it.
This is my reminder that it's PE time. Don't record that. Sorry, it is a little crazy around here.
I have a couple coworkers that I'd like to introduce everybody to. We have Griff and BB-8000, his most prized possession, a penguin slightly smaller than he is.
That's a giant penguin.
It is a giant penguin. There you go.
Every team needs a mascot.
Yes. Thanks, Griffy.
Probably my top 2 favorite things for Audio Reader. One is that we've heard from so many listeners just expressing their appreciation and how good the sound is. And, that always feels good to know that you're reaching people.
I have heard from people who have Audio Reader, use Audio Reader, that they're using it more. And so we've had steady requests for service. We've steadily been sending out radios. We've steadily been signing people up for telephone readers. So they're relying on audio reader and other sources a little bit more because they don't have face-to-face interaction with people to share news and information.
This time has allowed me the opportunity to talk with listeners more, and it has solidified how important this service is, because local news matters more than ever now, especially with everything taking place with the pandemic.
It's all community news. There's not a whole lot about national happenings. It's what's really going on in your community. So even though print journalism is dying and, people aren't buying papers, I still feel that newspapers, newsprint is the lifeline for a lot of the communities in Kansas and Missouri that we serve.
It has reiterated how important this service is and the work that all of our volunteers are doing to make sure that the service is continuing on 24 hours a day remotely, which is an incredible feat.
We were very lucky to have a great group of volunteers to help us pivot, which is now the catch-all term for changing things around during COVID times. So we pivoted to home readers, and there was a lot of work in figuring out how to do that, but thankfully we had lots of people who were willing and able and eager, so we couldn't have done it without them.
And one of the best things that I've sort of noticed throughout the pandemic has been a lot of people who 6 months ago would have said, oh, I'll never be able to figure out how to Zoom or how to do a live chat or something. And that, they have found a way to stay connected and to get involved. And I think that was one of the positives that came out of this.
I just remember in the week or two leading up to us going fully remote, we started talking about, recording from home. And one of our volunteers was like, I'm out. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to set up a home studio. I am not technology savvy. This is not going to happen. And it did. He reads for us, maybe 7-8 programs a week, taking on special requests. And our volunteers are astounding in a regular year. And the pandemic has just let a lot of our volunteers shine even more.
Then it kind of turned into what's the best way to record? How do you record on an iPhone? Figuring out ways to deal with it. And now it's more of this is the normal. It's been really interesting because it's just all problem solving and troubleshooting, and there's not an answer.
A lot of it has been shifted to electronic communication through email, social media, and we've done a lot more phone calls from home, trying to keep people informed and involved, but not actually in person.
We had a paper broadcast schedule, and we used to pick up something called a red pen and make a red mark on a paper. And now that's all digital. That's clicking a box in an online web-based scheduler. So those were some of the first things that had to change.
We're connecting with people on Zoom. We're finding out ways to do different events, such as transitioning our sale to a series of Facebook Live sales, which has been a lot of fun. And it has pushed us out of our comfort zone, which is good for us to do on a daily basis.
It's been different, that's for sure, but I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking to people and finding out how they're adapting and what's changed in their world.
We're making it up as we go along, building the plane as we fly, and all of those good analogies. It was new and scary, but kind of trusted in our ability to do it. And obviously so much of that relies on the volunteers doing all their parts.
It's been delightful to meet volunteers that, served way before I was here, and have come back. They just emailed us and said, hey, this pandemic thing, that's probably messing with you. Is there anything I can do from home? Because I have a home studio. And the answer was yes, please do.
And learning that technology and diving in and being so patient with questions as to which I did not have answers and had to go and figure out or learn it and try it myself, and then go back and pretend I was an authority on it. There's been a lot of that over the last 6 months. Humbling, but really kind of proud that we're able to keep it going. And it is definitely in a huge part due to the volunteers.
And I get regular calls from volunteers that are just missing their reading assignments so much and just miss being in the studio. And audio reader was a weekly, daily, monthly part of their lives that they really miss connecting and providing service to the listeners. And so it's always a delight to hear from them, but we are hopeful to the future when we can see all our friends and everybody can be back to their assignments and reading and contributing to the service in a fuller way as they were before the pandemic.
Last spring, one of our listeners said to me that this is an opportunity for sighted folk to feel more empathetic with some of our listeners because, for the first time for many of us, we can't just jump in a car, run to the store, or have this information just on our phones, that you have to seek out when and how to get information or get healthcare, grocery shopping, these things done, because it's changing every day. And because a lot of the information is published as a PDF. So it was just very interesting for me to stop and think about the frustrations that we're all experiencing. It was a really good opportunity to connect with some of our listeners.
It's made me more hopeful about the continuation of audio information services. Just the fact that all of us around the country, all the audio information services, have been able to continue to provide their programming and quality programming remotely makes me really hopeful that we'll still be able to serve our audience.
I mean, it just speaks so much to who and what this organization is. To know that people who served, decades ago, like a pandemic happens and audio readers who and what they think of to reach out and try and support.
While Audio Reader has a lot of camaraderie based around the building and the location and the fact that we have a lovely fireplace and a living room people can gather in and a coffee bar, and that's all wonderful, and that will be back. But just the fact that what we do is not about a place, it's not about equipment, it's more about the need for these services. And so that it just makes me hopeful that no matter what happens, we're still able to figure out a way to serve people that need access to information.
By providing access to news and information, Audio Reader allows people with disabilities to live full, independent lives.
One thing that I really enjoy is working here in the 18th and Vine area. My two favorite things, music and baseball, is right here. It's a real honor for me to be able to have my business in this area. To be able to listen to the financial pages, you understand what's happening. Real time is extremely important.
The U.S. imports roughly $500 billion in Chinese goods each.
To me, it's the equivalent of freedom. It allows me to have the freedom to read
2 minutes ago
and get the same information that folks that are sighted is getting.
Send text message to 816.
And Audio Reader provides me with that opportunity. It allows me to get information quickly and on the run. It gives me the confidence to be able to talk about their problems, and it gives the client the confidence that I know what I'm talking about.
Yes, my name is Mary Eliezer. I wanted to call and thank y'all so much for the Audio Reader because I am blind and visually impaired. And I love a lot of the things that y'all read on the phone. I do the grocery ads, which I appreciate that because that helps me to save money in the long run. And I listen to the all the cooking shows that you have, the newspaper, different magazines. Just a lot of informed information that keeps me up to date. And I sure appreciate that. Anyway, I just wanted to give my thanks and want to appreciate and hope y'all all stay safe. And thank you again for all what you do.
Hi, I'm Meredith Johanning, Assistant Development Director for Audio Reader. If there's one thing this pandemic has taught us to do, it's to adapt. We've had to adapt to wearing masks, to working remotely. We've had to adapt to a completely different way of doing life. So one of Audio Reader's listeners, Andrea Breyer from Kansas City, is well versed in adaptability. She grew up attending the Kansas City School for the Blind, where she was first introduced to audio reader and the impact it could have on her life. She has since spent a career working for the Missouri Assistive Technology, where she educates other individuals who are blind and visually impaired about the services that are available to them, including audio reader. She told us that audio reader has always been there for her, and she tries to tell everyone she knows about the service. She also shared with us that in life, it's all about the tools you have in your toolbox. And for her, audio reader is the most important tool. Please listen on for this special message from our listener, Andrea.
Hi, audio reader audience. I just wanted to take time out to tell everyone how appreciative the consumers are that use the audio reader service. To be able to have you all out there that either run the show or do the show, which is, you know, all the reading and all the things that we have, we really do appreciate you out there. I myself have known about audio reader service all the way back into the 70s. I went to the Kansas State School for the Blind, and we had audio reader radios in pretty much all the lounges when the kids stayed at the residential school. And so we all knew about that and were exposed to that from very early on. It was always nice to be able to listen to stories, and as we got older, listen to ads and news and all that kind of stuff, and be able to read the paper. My parents always read the paper when we were kids, and we would always do on Christmas, especially Thanksgiving holiday, we would all sit down and gather around the newspaper, and people would read the ads, and we would decide in what order we were going to go to the store. And we carried that tradition on even now today with my family and now my girls. I have two daughters, and they're in their 30s, and they're both sighted, and so they read those to me. And that's always kind of one of my things that I remember growing up, is to listen to people read, and we still enjoy that today. One of the things I wanted to say to everyone here that's watching, we're just really so appreciative of, you know, like I said, people reading to us, and to be able to have human readers rather than trying to look things up online and stuff like that. And so we just really have been able to have it all this time, and it's, you know, always kept up with the times. It doesn't matter how advanced things get technology wise. I'm a technology trainer nowadays, and I teach people how to use assistive technology and stuff, and audio reader is always still part of how I start out my sessions with people. I try to help people use technology that doesn't take a lot of learning curve at the very beginning when they get going, because a lot of times they don't know those things yet, and it's pretty overwhelming. So to be able to use now the Alexa device, we are able to get people hooked up with someone to read to them right away, pretty much. And so people are kind of tickled about that. Anyway, I just wanted to come on today and tell the volunteers how much we really do appreciate you. I used to be a volunteer coordinator as well. With my working background, you can tell I'm probably kind of oldish, but that's a good thing too, right? Anyway, it's always very important this time of the year to let people like you guys know how much really it is appreciated by the people who receive the service that you all so selflessly provide for us and that we can count on every day still. So keep up the good work. We really appreciate you, and we hope to see you next year in person. Thank you.
Hello, this is Shirley Fudge. I am an audio reader listener, and I would like to comment that I think that the volunteers who read the newspapers do a great job. And I also would like to say that they are good about describing the pictures that are along with some of the articles. Because as blind people, some of us, speaking for myself, like to know what pictures look like. And so I would just like to comment that they do a great job And without Audio Reader, we wouldn't know what was going on in the world as easily. So I just want to give a big thank you to all of you. Thank you and have a good day. Bye.
Hi, my name is Susan Tabor. I've been a subscriber to Audio Reader services since I was in college. I've also been an employee at Audio Reader, and I am still a user of Audio Reader services. Anyway, I just wanted to call and thank all of the volunteers. I really miss being around you, and I really appreciate all of the time that you spend doing the reading for us. It takes a long time to read a book, and so I appreciate your time and your patience with doing that. I would like to give a special shout out to Steve Grimm, who does the news on Saturday morning on the Journal World. I love the little musical interludes between each story because that's helpful in, if I want to scan. And I don't know, the environment is so enthusiastic, and I just really enjoy listening. Anyway, thanks to all of you. I enjoy listening to you, and I appreciate what you do. Thank you. Bye.
Hi, I'm Beth McKenzie, the Director of Development here at Audio Reader. I wanted to give you some updates from the Development Department, which is myself and Meredith Johanning. As most of you know, our major fundraisers are the golf tournament and the sale, which both had to be canceled this year due to COVID. We have added some online Facebook Live sales where we have a small selection of equipment, media, vinyl, and we are doing these to increase awareness, to bring in new people for not only the sale, but for Audio Reader. Our next one is going to be November 19th at 6 p.m., so definitely tune in and check it out. Other changes for development have meant that we've had to change how we talk to donors, how we reach out to people, and electronic communication has become a necessity. So please go to our website if you haven't been there for a while. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Make sure that you're getting both of our newsletters. We have a lot of good information, and we truly miss all of you. So it would be a great opportunity for us to get connected. We also wanted to share that we are so blessed to have our donors and business sponsors continue supporting us throughout these difficult times. Thank you so much for your support. We really, truly appreciate you.
Lakeside EEU takes Barn Quilt Tour.
Thousands of listeners depend on Audio Reader for news that is essential to their daily lives. Something as simple as the latest grocery store ads.
Welcome to Shopping the Discounts. This is Julian Silverman bringing you circular ads from Hy-Vee, Dillon's, and Checkers. We'll start with Hy-Vee. This is September 5th through 11th. We've got first of the season Honeycrisp apples, fresh from Washington, and that's $1.
Hi folks, Nick here. I'm very happy to be joining you today from my own Audio Reader HQ, also known as my garage. So it's been said once or twice today that 2020 has been a year full of challenges. Overall, we are so pleased and proud and thankful for our entire Audio Reader team who have adapted to new ways of doing things and just rolled with the changes during this pandemic. One thing that hasn't changed, however, is our commitment to our mission and our dedication to finding new and more effective ways of reaching our listeners, getting the news and information they need to them in ways that make sense to their lives and to their specific needs. Many of you will be familiar with the Special Requests program, which is kind of a way to fill the gaps with some publications that are too specific to be of interest to a wide audience through our broadcast. Sometimes it's really only relevant for a small group of people, either in a geographic area or based on their interest. And sometimes it's just a single document or publication that is really only of use to one person, but of course has a huge impact to their ability to lead full and independent lives. Examples can be instruction manuals, training manuals, college textbooks, sometimes legal documents, or other news or information or entertainment that a listener just can't get in an accessible format. So one such special request that's come in since the pandemic has come from a listener named Teresa Bates. And Teresa is a hugely inspiring individual. She's been a registered nurse for decades before encountering problems with her vision due to a medical procedure. But she's not let that stop her by any means. And in fact, she's continuing study to become a legal nurse consultant. So Teresa approached Audio Reader with this very specific need for a textbook so that she could be certified as a legal nurse consultant. Luckily, we had volunteers at the ready. Dr. Carl Graves was one of the first volunteers to leave Audio Reader right before we shut down with a home studio, and he has continued with gusto to read daily assignments as well as taking on additional tasks. So this special request was a perfect fit for Carl. After 43 different installments, Carl was able to complete the textbook, which we then got to Teresa not by our usual methods, but instead through digital means, sending a link which she was able to listen on her cell phone and also on her desktop computer so that she could do the work necessary for this certification, advancing her career and continuing to be effective in her role as a registered nurse and, fingers crossed, with Audio Reader's help as a legal nurse consultant. Before I hand it over to Teresa to tell us more about her story, I do want to thank Carl Graves for this specific special request, but also I want to thank all our special request readers over the years, as well as all our readers who've shown flexibility and a willingness to dive into these readings that have such a specific and unique impact to our listeners and really offer a service that they just cannot get anywhere else, and that goes a long, long way towards their ability to lead full and independent lives.
My name is Teresa Bates, and I am an avid Audio Reader listener. I've been participating with Audio Reader now, I think, since 2017. I was brought to the light of Audio Reader through an organization called Alpha Point here in Kansas City, Missouri, and born and raised. I became visually impaired through a surgical procedure, but I don't have any regrets because even though my vision is not like how it was, I've done a lot of growing and being able to learn how to adapt in a advancing technological world as, you know, my vision has become impaired. For somebody who was an avid reader, like ferocious, prior to the incident with my vision, I was in a dark spot. And so to have hundreds of books and not be able to read them, I felt like I was in a corner and that, you know, life was over. So being introduced to Audio Reader not only allowed me to continue reading, but has also allowed access to other topics that I probably would not have normally taken the time to even listen to. So I'm grateful and thankful for that. The books that I'm reading, the material, it's for legal nurse consulting. And I hope to, at the end of that course, sit down for a test to become a certified legal nurse consultant. That will allow me, you know, a little bit more expertise and, you know, power behind my name and credentials that will allow me to participate in different, you know, legal arenas, given, you know, being a registered nurse as well as being a nurse now since 1995. So that's the goal, is to become certified and to provide legal consulting to my area of expertise. Well, the thing with nursing is this, almost like when you're in the military and you go through basic training. Once you've had the training, everything else is just a plus. Being able to still remember, you know, protocols, policies, and procedures, even without having my vision, I could easily walk a nursing student or a new nurse through, this is what the wound may look like. This is how it may present. This is how you would take care of it. This is what you would do if it's, you know, becoming emergent. So my basic skills as what I learned, that never goes away. I think for somebody that has vision impairment or legally blind, it's one of the best things ever, as far as if you have a desire to continue to learn and grow and, go forth with your education, being able to access this technology is awesome. I can access the link from, I usually click on the email that Nick sent me, and I can do this on the phone, sitting in doctor's office, or I can, go to my desktop computer. It helps me feel that there are zero limits. And for somebody who, had been, non-vision impaired for so long, to be able to access this information to help me, feel more empowered in order to, educate myself so that I can, continue on in the nursing career. It's convenient, it's highly accessible. And I hope that if there's other people out there, not necessarily just nurses, that, want to continue on with their education, I highly, highly encourage them to do this. I didn't go through all the years of, work, experience, and education just to sit in the dark. I still feel that, that urge to still want to help and to learn, it's still in me. So earmarked of my vision being where it's at, my brain still works. I still function as an, adult, female. And so I still feel like I have, things to offer that could be of value and a positive impact on others.
Hi, this is Kayleen, one of your telephone reader listeners. I sure do enjoy the Dillon's ad, the Walgreens ad, the Apple Mart ad, and the newspapers, both the Today's section and the special edition of the Capital Journal. I sure enjoy that, and I sure appreciate you all taking the time to read that and take the time to do the holiday things as well, because I know that sometimes it's busy. But thank you all for all you do for us listeners. It sure helps a lot in our lives. Okay, thank you. Bye.
When I first was diagnosed with my eye problem, I was in a very dark place, and the audio reader was my help and guidance through that. And through these years, I have enjoyed it, and I just wish your company great success. And I just thank you so very much for all the volunteers, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Hello, I am Allison Beloin-Dean, coordinator of Volunteers for Audio Reader. We are moving into my favorite part of the event, celebrating the dedication of our longtime volunteers. I am sorry that we can't all be in the same room to applaud their many years of service. We had such a fun time interviewing a sample of our honorees this year via Zoom. You're about to see a small number of our amazing volunteers celebrating anniversaries reflect on their years of service. Watch for a full listing of all the honorees at the end of the video. Now, let's toast our amazing
audio reader volunteers!
Well, my name is Al Kane. My former occupation is a small business owner here in the Kansas City area. And I started reading for Audio Reader 30 years ago.
Well, my name is Austin Henry Turney. I'm a native of Lawrence, but I spent most of my adult life in the East, in New York City and suburban Connecticut. We came back here at the end of 1994, and I had said, the first thing I'm going to do in a volunteer way is go to Audio Reader and see about reading, because my mother depended on this service and liked it very much in her later years.
In the Lawrence Journal World, in the volunteer section, I saw an ad and they were going to have auditions. So I was like, oh yeah. I called and came in for my, interview and test and the whole bit. And a week or 10 days later, I got a call back. Yeah, you passed and we want you to come read for us. I was like, oh, wow, cool. So
my name is Gavin Bruce. I am by profession a translator, German-English translator, and occasional audiobook narrator and VO artist. And I currently reside in New Rochelle, New York, just outside of New York City. I have been volunteering and working for Audio Reader since August of 1995.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly G. Loeb. I am a social worker. I work primarily with clients who are age 60 or more. I have been honored to be a volunteer with Audio Reader since about September of 2010.
I'm Jack Wilson. I've been reading with Audio Reader for about 10 years. My wife and I have Washington Creek Lavender, the Lavender Farm, just south of Clinton Lake. And my background was in radio and TV, and I wanted to see if I could continue doing something like that when I was here in Lawrence.
Name, Carrie McGee. Occupation right now is, I've been saying semi-retired, kind of fudging. I'm retired, you know, I gotta admit it. Yeah, and I think I started, I'm pretty sure it was around 1990.
My name is Lois Ann Hanslick, and I'm a happy homemaker. When I was working, I was a secretary at the controller's office at Stanford University. And then when we came to Lawrence, I was the secretary in a brand new nursing home here in Lawrence. Actually, I started taping for Audio Reader in the early 70s. Back when the studio was that little white house that's on the road going up to Audio Reader. And then at some point in time, I kind of retired temporarily. And then I came back in 1990 when I was looking for something to do to give back to our community. And that's where I've happily been ever since.
My name is Marilyn Daniels, and I've been reading for Audio Reader for about 20 years. I was a teacher in Tonganoxie. I taught 7th grade literature and English. So I've always enjoyed the printed word and always eager to share it with other people who love it.
I'm Max Mays. I have a series of careers. I was a pipe organ builder with Reuter Organ Company for about 15 years, taught at Topeka Technical College, and eventually I was computer software and training coordinator at KU Endowment. Well, I started in 1990.
I'm Rex Buchanan. I'm the former director of the Kansas Geological Survey here at KU, and I started reading at Audio Reader, I guess, in 1995.
I'm Sue Nishikawa, retired from KU, where I was manager of the Instructional Development Service. I was at a conference in Wisconsin. I met a couple. When I asked her what she did during the times that her husband was attending meetings, she said, "Oh, I'm going back to my room to record for the visually handicapped." And I said, "Oh, that sounded very interesting." And so when I got back to KU, I found Audio Reader. Yeah, that was, I guess, 30 years ago.
I'm Darcy Schild. I am retired. I worked for 30-some years as a school librarian, elementary. I started reading for Audio Reader in 1980, just about now. It was in October. I'm not sure my first date. I have it written down somewhere, but it was in October. I remember when I started, I was reading to some of my students at the grade school of some book, and I thought, I wonder if they would be interested in Audio Reader. I don't know how I first heard about Audio Reader. My dad was a professor and my mom was involved in a lot of clubs in town, and so it was sort of general knowledge in the back of my mind. I have recorded books in every category. I've done newspapers. I've done New York Times weekend things, travel. I subbed for a while doing Sunday comics with Art when we used to do that. I've done a lot of things subbing, but I'm not sure if there's any category I haven't done at least once.
I had heard about the service from a friend of mine named Chris Silva, and I had just returned from a year abroad in Germany and stumbled in on a very hot day to ask about volunteering.
The reason I started was actually that I saw a car in the parking lot at Target with an audio reader sticker on it. And I was intrigued by the notion of like having an assignment to read. I mean, I'll read for any reason, but I like the idea of reading for a purpose. And I had a new client at work who was looking for some reading material as her vision began to change. And I thought, oh, I wonder if something like this would work for my client. I bet I could do it.
I started out reading with Frank Day, the Kansas City Star and the Topeka Capital Journal. In 1997, I got started reading the Eastern Kansas and Western Kansas also.
When I first started, you know, it was substitutes, the 2 o'clock Western Kansas papers. I read a couple of books.
When I first signed up, I thought I was going to be reading books, but I think I did one book. I did the newspaper reader, and I still do that as substitute.
I started out first on coming into the studio and doing, some books for kids, any kind of special readings they wanted. And then I was also a fill-in reader for like the newspapers that are live.
I remember my earliest assignments were special requests. So it was kind of a little bit of everything.
She asked me in the final interview, I think, says, do you have any issues reading risque material? I said, no, I'm fine with that. She says, well, have we got a magazine for you?
My very, very first assignment was quite fortunate. It was the Christian Science Monitor 25 years ago. I also had newspapers of Northwest Missouri for quite a long time.
Early on, I did short stories and once in a while filled in doing a newspaper story. The first newspaper story I did was a sports story, and I know nothing about sports, so that was quite an experience.
The first assignment I had at audio reader was the Topeka Capital Journal. Then Jen came to me and said, hey, we got an afternoon shift of doing stuff live. Do you want to try that? And I thought that would be terrific because you get one shot at it. I mean, when it's done, it's done. You can't overthink it. You have to get it or not.
From there, I spent a while reading the newspapers of Southeast Kansas, which was great because at the time I was a state employee and traveling all throughout Kansas.
Yeah, I used to come over every Saturday morning and get there when the studio opened at 7 and would read 2 hours worth of books. Then a few years back, I decided I would not drive to Lawrence anymore at 6 in the morning. And so decided then to go to the telephone reader service and was offered the opportunity on Saturday mornings to record the letters to the editor and the opinion page from the Kansas City Star.
They were needing somebody to do some telephone reader things, and they gave me several options, but I always felt much more fortunate to get the opinion pages rather than want ads or grocery ads or something like that. It's like, I'd much rather read the opinions.
I also had, for several years, the Sunday morning breakfast table Times, reading usually with Steve Smith, and we had a pretty good time with that. 3 hours loaded up on coffee and donuts on a Sunday morning.
I remember I did the sports section in the Kansas City Star for quite a while, but a few years ago, and I think it might have been even 7 or 8 years ago now, I started doing TV Guide, and that's what I've done since then.
And then I went on to just read novels, and both fiction and nonfiction, because that was where the need was. And I just fell in love with doing that because I love to read anyway.
And then within, short period of time, a month or two, they asked me if I would read Discover Magazine. I thought, if I was not reading it for somebody else, I'd read it for myself. So sure, absolutely. And I've been doing that ever since.
Usually I read the regional newspapers, and I thoroughly enjoyed them. And I really felt that it was a service to the people who were in the area and unable to have access or be able to read their newspapers. So it was a pleasure for me, as well as hoping that they would find as much pleasure in getting the news.
Two things that I am very proud of, that I enjoyed. Unbeknownst to me, one of my recordings was sent to the IAAS, and you have it on the wall up there, but I also received 2006 Program of the Year for one of my recordings. So that was kind of cool. And also in 1997, Audio Reader nominated me for, and I won the Douglas County Volunteer of the Year Award. So that was really cool that those were done by the staff.
My father had a brother and a sister who were both blinded by retinitis pigmentosa by the time they graduated high school. And my sister-in-law is visually impaired. And so that's kind of near and dear to my heart, to be working with people who are visually impaired. That got me off my backside, and I came down and auditioned, and they said, okay, start reading for us.
I had an aunt who had some macular degeneration, and it was difficult for her to read, and she had magnification equipment and all kinds of things set up to help her. And I suddenly realized, it was one of those moments of, what if that had happened to you? What if suddenly you couldn't read? And because reading has always been so important to me, I said, I need to do this for someone, because someday somebody may need to do it for me.
When I would come into the studios, I always looked at the bulletin board in the lobby and was always gratified to see the letters being received by Audio Reader from listeners, and knowing what an impact it was having on individuals who otherwise would be limited in whatever aspect of reading that they could not do. And so that was inspiring every time I came in.
The camaraderie that I felt with the volunteers, and especially the staff all along through the years, they've been just wonderful to work with. And then knowing that I was doing something good, bringing some joy to people who were visually handicapped.
I think Audio Reader is probably one of the most important nonprofits that provides a real, honest-to-goodness service to people, which you can quantify and you can see how it works. And there is a beginning, a middle, and an end. You read for someone, and hopefully they're listening, and they hear it, and they're getting something out of it, and it's really some sort of almost an immediate gratification.
The idea that there's always someone actually listening out there, it's a real exchange.
I confess it's not always the most interesting news, but I think it's the most important thing that Audio Reader does, because you can always turn on CNN or NPR or whatever, or turn on Channel 13 and find out what's happening, but you don't know. You can't read, you can't get the obituaries there, or what's happening at the town hall, or what street is closed. So I think that's the base of the pyramid of what we do.
I just like the idea that Audio Reader can just come along and be, oh, I never thought of that. And wow, look how much it has enriched my life. I never thought I could read about the sexiest man alive in People magazine. And now I can, and so that's kind of what I mean by Audio Reader can absolutely, I think, fill in a gap for someone who's having a hard time, but also can just enhance what is already a full life.
Audio Reader 2020 Anniversary Honorees. 40 years of service, Darcy Schild. 35 years, Karen O'Keefe, Gail Matchett. 30 years, Max Mays, Al Kane, Lois Hanslick, Carrie McGee, Elaine Roberts, Sue Nishikawa. 25 years, Austin Turney, Les Carlson, Rex Buchanan, Peg Sampson, Eleanor Winger, Marion Wilbur, Gavin Bruce. 20 years, Lisa Hallberg, Marilyn Daniels, Cindy Penzler, Ann Chapman. 15 years, Deborah Kermer, Betsy Parker, Ann Dean, Terry Betson, Fred Miller, George Norton, David Kent, Haskell Springer. 10 years, Jennifer Forth, Ruth Hughes, Susan McGee, Barb Johnson, Jack Wilson, Michael Hauber, Kelly G. Loeb, Judy McCormick, Goody Garfield, Pete Knudsen. 5 years, Kim Kubel, Lynn Fields, Anne Renee Razor, David Williams, George Smith, Tracy Harrison, Stephen Grimm, Diane Carnell, Melinda Carney, Tom Carney, Mary Beth Leininger, Mary Jo Hobbs, Matt Suggs, Maverick Moore, Sally Downing, Wake Mitchell, Jay Hester, John Roper, Michael Cornelius, Rob Johnson, Susan Craig, Carol Cole, Felonies Lovato Winston, William Hawkins, Terry McInnes.
Hi, this is Kimberly Morrow. As a volunteer and listener of Audio Reader, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to each and every volunteer who is reading from home during this very challenging time in all of our lives, as we experience a world alone together. I wanted to share a couple of insights that I hope will help you in your quest to be the very best reader you can possibly be. First, your reading sounds amazing. Every time I listen, I am struck by the professionalism, clarity, and authenticity of your presentation. Thank you. Also, many of the people served by Audio Reader live in nursing homes, retirement centers, hospitals, and other locations where visitors, even the closest of relatives, are no longer permitted to be. Now, more than ever, yours may be the only voice of comfort and assurance some of our listeners hear during what would otherwise be very lonely waking hours. Having both a voice and content they depend on will help sustain their spirits, nurture their curiosity, and help them to remain informed and positive. Thank you for being our light in the darkness. We love and appreciate you. Stay safe and keep reading.
Okay, folks, that is the end of our toast to our volunteers this year. Know that you are never far from our thoughts, and we will continue to appreciate all the work that you do each and every day throughout the year. I often imagine what the future will look like when we are all able to gather, record, and work safely from the Audio Reader studios, and I am filled with joy and hope and so much excitement. May you all be well until then. Thank you again for all that you do for Audio Reader.